Hi, today's podcast is titled Empowering Others to Help You Stay on the Path. This is inspired by a couple of personal experiences that I've had here recently. Quite a few months ago, I noticed that my energy was inconsistent in the mornings when I would meet people here in the little wellness studio to come in for connection, community, and a workout. And when I noticed it, what was going on in my head was I was just absent to the commitment that I'd made that every time that a person sees me or interacts with me, that I'm going to be loving, kind, and engaging. And the little wellness studio that I have is a perfect opportunity to practice that because I see people quite often who come in, and they come in, with incredible kindness. Like they made an effort to be here, and so they want to be here. And so it's really easy to do. But even with that, I have struggled a lot of it unconsciously to, being like full of joy and energy when they walk through the door. Now, I'm not about faking that kind of energy. I'm about training it so that it is part of my new normal. Like years ago, as I mentioned before, like my commitment was to become a human being that sprinkles kindness everywhere they go. And so I have worked on doing that. And that has become pretty normal for me now, like my automatic behavior when I'm around some people. But there's some gaps there. And so when I noticed one of the gaps, I asked two friends to let me know. One was Sharon. She let me know she is so generous in coming in and leading one of our cycling classes in the morning. And when she would come in, I would be in the middle of like my morning practice or my morning routine. And she's coming in and she's like, "Hi, Keith." And she's always happy to see me again. She's like volunteering her time. Like she's not paid to do this. And she wants to make a contribution to our community, which is so amazing. And I would be slow to respond, or I'd say hi without even looking up. And so I asked Sharon to do me a favor and to make sure that I make eye contact with her, that I engage her, that I'm fully present to her, and I'm expressing my gratitude for her contribution to the studio and our community by the way that I show up when she walks in. And of course, she's agreed to do that. And since she's agreed to do that, I haven't needed a reminder. And I've also asked her sister, Randy, who just joined the community recently, to also do the same thing for me, because Randy is really aware of my energy and how I show up. And she's always expressing gratitude for the partnership that we have that has really contributed to her fitness at this part of her life journey. And the way that Randy, she said, "Absolutely, Keith, I'm honored to be able to help you to expand your capacity, your consciousness in this area of being present, of being joyful, of being of having great energy when you greet people." So I've been doing pretty well, but most recently over the last couple of weeks with the holidays, we've had really full studio classes. And I am really giving attention to almost every single person, and people are at different stages of the activity. So my energy is like my attention is pulled in different directions, but that's no excuse of how I want to show up. So what Randy has done without telling me she's doing this is she will say hello twice. Like she'll say hello and I'll say hello, but I'm occupied doing something else. And then she'll say hello again. And then I'll say, "Hi, Randy," and I'll look at her, I'll make eye contact and connect. Now, the old me would be like, "Well, you got a lot of things going on. You can't be present to everybody." Well, that's why I don't listen to that voice, because that's not how I want to show up. When I'm with someone, I want to be with someone. And that's the commitment that I've made for myself, because it's when you're with people, when you're present, it's when you're really living. Otherwise, you're mostly lost in thought. And you are not present for these moments that you won't get back. So that's my personal, commitment and how I want to live my life. So most recently, Randy did it again. And so I called her later that morning, And I thanked her. And I just wanted to apologize to her for slipping in this area. And not for her, but for me, because I want to be alive as much as possible. And I know that my heart is beating, so I'm alive in that way, but I want to be alive with my consciousness, with my present. And it's possible because most of my life is lived like that. So it's just an opportunity to practice in this area so that this also becomes like breathing for me too. And I started to like break down in tears as I communicated to her what this goal of mine, that I needed her help with this again, and that I want to stop moving forward when she walks through the door. And I want to come over and greet her. I want this to be my exercise every single time, no matter what I'm doing, to come over and greet her and really be present for her, because she is really on this also path of being kind and being loving and quieting the mind so that she can be present for everything that is going on in her life. And so it's an honor to have someone who wants to partner with me in that way, which leads me to something that happened recently, just a few days ago. And what I found is that I can learn from anybody and take and grow. The people that really helped me most recently over the last few years expand my consciousness are those people that are also committed to the path as well. And you can see it in their behavior, the reduced complaining, or you see them when they are doing the deep work that's necessary to really transform or break down to a breakthrough, and then also expand the areas of their lives to where they are really living fully and being loving, kind, compassionate, giving people and themselves grace are the people that are on this path. And so they have been incredibly a great resource to me. The names that come to mind here over the last couple of weeks, and there's so many, so I don't want to leave anybody out, but Brian and Pete are certainly at the top of that list, along with my friend Tim, and John DeCuna is up there with Jonathan Layton, who is also all in on this path too. So, and I can't forget my friend Jerkowski. He is just really crushing it as well. And so, with that being said, what has been interesting is that I shared an event that happened several months ago, in which I thought I made a conscious choice to handle it in a way that was aligned with my wellness practice. And what it involved was an individual who supports and has articulated a certain position that is not aligned with being kind, inclusive, and loving to all people. And we had a conversation about it in which I shared a request that, when we get together, that we partner on creating that space. And he said, absolutely. Thank you for sharing. I didn't know that my behavior was not, doing that, but I want to do that with you too. So thank you. And so the next time I saw him for this activity, he wasn't doing that. Like, he doubled down, and it was the same behavior that he did before, which I was fine with, because I'm really, better at not confusing behavior with who people are, so that I can always or consistently see the humanity in other people. And so at that point, I made a choice to not continue to participate in this activity. But I was cool with him doing whatever he chooses to do. I just was making a different choice here. So the three people, which are Julie, my friend Sherry, and my friend Donna, they were amazing. I shared this with them several months earlier, like 6 months. Told them, here's, because we have this group that we meet with every 2 weeks, in which we're open, we're vulnerable, we're sharing about our wellness practice and our journey and everything like that. And we answer 2 questions: what's going well with our practice and what needs work. And so this was the part that I was sharing, that was, well, here's what I think is going well, and here's how I'm going to, proceed with this particular individual in this activity. And they listened, and then, but because they're doing the work too over the 6 months that passed, I revisited the conversation with them, on Thursday and told them that, hey, listen, I am reading this book, so I want to revisit this. And the author of this book, Michael Singer, says that you want to become the kind of individual that no matter who you're with, no matter what's going on in life, you're always turned on. You're never turned off. So if you are with somebody whose politics are ultra conservative and yours are progressive, it doesn't matter with you. You're turned on no matter what. Nothing turns you off. There's no limits to you showing up, being kind, being loving, being all these things. You can be around anybody. And I said, I want to move in this direction. And I said, I don't know that I'm doing this in this particular area. I feel like I'm accepting someone's choice, and I'm on that path. And they asked some really great questions that gave me an opportunity to think, more deeply about it. And so Donna's question was, if that individual wasn't there, would you still go to that activity? And I said, that's a great question. It hasn't happened that I've had the time to go because I'm in grad school. So the time that I spend working on my courses is a time that the other friends engage in this activity. So I really haven't had the opportunity. But if I had the opportunity, would I go or not? And I don't think I would. So again, that's a limit or a barrier to me showing up. And I'm about removing barriers to how I experience life, or barriers that are in the way of me experiencing other people and learning and growing, as well as sprinkling kindness. And then Sherry said, listen, when I was struggling with religion, particularly with the Catholic Church, and I was struggling with this other area with something else, you reminded me, Keith, of giving people grace and creating space and allowing people to reinvent themselves and all of this. And so are you doing this here? And I said, well, the individual, really, doubled down and began to share with me all the reasons why his way of thinking was the way to go, which again isn't about being inclusive or being loving or being kind to everybody. It's not that. And then, she reminded me like, hey, but what you told me is that's their path. This is your path. Again, she's spot on. And then finally, my friend Julie said to me, she said, Keith, when you mentioned that 6 months ago, what stood out to me is I was like, man, that's really un-Keith-like to take that, approach. And it gave me it made me think about it. And what really made me think about it is because these individuals are living their lives in such a way that they're working to walk the talk. There are other people that gave me, maybe similar things to consider or think about in terms of my approach and questions. But for whatever reason, I didn't see them walking the talk. And so, but I don't need people to walk the talk for me to have my true north be in a direction that is aligned with being loving, kind, giving grace, and being unconditional in it. And then I went on to answer the question like, man, am I being unconditional in my approach here, with this particular situation? And so I just want to end this episode by saying I learned a lot with this particular activity in this event. And I am grateful for these, 5 friends who helped me see it. And they did it in such a gentle way, by just asking questions, not telling me what to do, and reminding me about how I live my life into this point, without making me feel shame, but really leading me forward by the hand and walking the path with me so I could see my edges and see at those edges, there were some barriers and some limits that I had put up that I wasn't really present to. And lastly, I want to say that they were able to do this for me because I asked them to. I empowered them to help me stay on the path. So if you're a person who complains all the time, have you empowered the people in your life, to remind you when you're complaining so that so you can stop? create space, and be aware that there's a different choice that you can take. Whether it's a delayed flight, missed flight, something has happened, you have a breakdown in your car, you've lost a loved one, you have feelings about that in some kind of way, or you've gone through a relationship, something in the news, and whatever the case is, where you're complaining or where you're being negative, have you given people in your life permission to help you get back on the path? And I'm grateful that I was conscious enough to give people in my life permission to help me get on the path. And I'm also grateful for the people that are walking the path every single day and not just going through the steps, but they're actually living it. And I was telling them, Sherry, Julie, and Donna, as we concluded our meeting, I was saying, you know what's special about this? What's special about this is that you couldn't have helped me before. Because if at any point over the last 6 months that you had stopped doing this daily work that you're doing right now, you wouldn't have been able to help me because you weren't on your path and your consciousness had not expanded enough to where you could help me with this. Not that I'm ahead of you, but because you're doing the work, you were able to see things and you've lived things with your own, life challenges and everything else that's going on in your world. You've lived those and you've applied the practice to them. And with that, you've come up with this wisdom that you're able to share with me. And it's wisdom that you're living every single day. And I just thank them, one, for helping me get on the path, but one, for doing their work too, every single day. I'm grateful for all my friends who are on the path and those aren't. And to those friends who are on the path, thank you. So I invite you to empower the people in your life to help you stay on the path. And they may be children. They're really good. I got a friend at Mayo Clinic, her daughter, ask her, Mom, are you Mom 1.0 today or Mom 2.0? Love that question. Can I ask that of your loved one, whether it's a spouse or a partner? Are you spouse 1.0 or spouse 2.0? Which one are you? It's a choice. I'm trying to be consistently keep 2.0. Thank you.